Hello. Come take a seat with me. I'm cuddling in my car. I hope you're doing well wherever you are at. I have come to inform you of my second story within animals as pets. One might assume, because the last time I talked about cats, that possibly I have stories about dogs. But alas, all my dog stories are connected to other people, for they are very lovely and dearly, but I was never allowed to have dogs within my own life. Now, the weird thing was, I moved out to more the west side of the country of America, and birds got introduced to my life. Which is so weird, because I got used to cats. And cats constantly attacked birds. But, I guess because of this, in order to be able to not cry over every single bird saw throughout my childhood that got killed, kind of got, saw them as meh, not super great, but not terrible. And my dad was actually very annoyed with birds because he had to essentially help raise them for a type of money system within his family in the past. But yet somehow we got school pets. My mom was a teacher, and there was a lady that constantly rescued animals, and she did not have enough room to take in these two new birds. And I think they're not the bird that could talk. I think they're called a parakeet. And my mom was like, "Sure, yeah, I'll take them." And from then on, we had years of just getting to love, grow, and appreciate birds more. The family took rotations and who was taking care of the birds, particularly getting new water and new food. And for a while, they were outside in the living, not outside because they couldn't handle the extreme temperatures, but they were in the living room of the house. And we how I put it, we were honestly a bit distant to them because it was clearly a case of they were more for the school because they're school pets than they were for our family. So we're just like meh until summer came around. And the first year we had them, my mom asked me, hey, could you move them into your room? And I had the space at the time to take them in, so I was like, sure, I'll take them. And I distinctively remember keeping the cage open, and they started flying around my room, and they'd sit on top of my drapes, and they were just dramatically got happier because they could fly around now, and they could they could stand wherever they wanted to stand. And they also had fun having beef with my mirrors because they could fly down from the drapes over to one of my countertops, which had a mirror on it, and then they turn around and see a bird and freak out because they think it's a new bird. It just basically start having fighting words. That was fun times. And I remember taking a video of the both of them, and they were both very friendly and would sit on my little shoulders, sit on hair, poop everywhere. I remember distinctively having to clean that up and being a bit annoyed, but they were very fun to be with. And there's one that we named Ginger Ale and one that was named Twinkle, because Ginger Ale was yellow and green, and Twinkle was blue and white with hints, like streaks of black. And I remember distinctively being called the Animal Whisperer because I developed like a relationship with these birds, and like they had permission to fly around my room, but they'd stay in my room, and like I didn't even like verbally tell them this. Like it was just like a social cue of like, oh, we stay in the room. And there were times where like it was later in the day and I like make a motion of looking up to them, and they were like, oh, it's time for bed. So there's times where we would leave to go see family, like go out of state to see family, and we get like an adopt basically a babysitter to come in to take care of them, to change out their food, and also make sure that they make sure they got back in the cage and close it for bedtime. And I wrote down in my notes, because I was the one taking care of them, I wrote down in my notes, give them a particular look and they will know it's bedtime, and then they will go to bed. And my parents were looking at this note like, Jess, we can't give this to them. And I was like, why not? Like, this is clearly like the Animal Whisperer type of ordeal. Like, they get the vibe and they know, but not everyone has that skill. This is a you thing. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, I grew to also bond with these birds, and I I learned that I distinctively started with this mindset of trained inside birds are great, love them. Outside birds are an annoyance that try to destroy your house and destroy um, outdoor equipment that you have. So it's okay if the cats go after them, but the inside birds are precious babies that need protecting. That's how I kind of came to cope in my teen years of dealing with animals. Before I went into my doomsday era. What I mean by that is just everything sucks and the world sucks. But um uh, I'm realizing as I'm looking at my list, this might be part of the reason why I went into that phase. So for some reason or another, the birds, I think we moved them out of my bedroom because the summertime went. No, it wasn't that. There's one day where the birds, I guess got adventurous, or like they thought they could explore more, and both of them just flew out of my room and flew into different directions. And we were the whole family was searching for them, panicking, trying to get them back to safety, and then in trying to protect, we found Twinkle, and in trying to protect it, because this is the youngest person in my family at the time. She was trying to close the door to stop the bird from doing anything that'd harm it, and the bird went straight to the door to try to escape. And in turn, it got slammed into the door and died on impact from shock. And it was very tough on everyone, but most especially the youngest in my family at the time. Just devastated that, because the unintentional, but it was caused by them. And the family held a funeral and let it pass away. Or, well, not let it pass away, it's already dead, but we buried it, gave it a proper funeral, because we now had a yard where we could do that. And my mom, because this is still school pet, buys another bird. And distinctively remember that Mom was planning on making it a surprise because the birthday of my sibling was coming up soon. So it's going to be a surprise for the family, and I'd keep it in my room for a bit, and then later on, like, try to make it look like this new bird was the old bird from before. And these birds in particular, they had a little bit of fighting between them, but they were still able to get along for the most part. And on my youngest sibling's birthday, accidentally just impulsively goes over to my room, and I'm trying to keep her from seeing the birds, but then she sees the birds and she just lights up like a Christmas tree. And Mom's like, "Yeah, surprise!" And at first I was just devastated because in my brain there was supposed to be a plan, and the plan didn't go through, so it failed. And Mom was like, "No, it's fine." She was obviously happy, so it worked out perfectly. And as Mom brought the birds back to school, the teenagers, she worked with teenagers, immediately caught on of like, this, like, they weren't like, "Oh, this isn't a new," they didn't suspect it was a new bird, but they're like, this bird looks a little bit different from the last time we saw it. And Mom just feigned ignorance and worked, and they dropped the subject, and we're like, okay. And we named the second bird after Twinkle to try to cover up the death for the students. So it just kind of got accepted, and the bird stayed with us for a while. But then, obviously, because it got moved out of my room back into the living room for school teaching, that bird was used to a huge group of just tons of birds socializing, and then got moved to just one other bird, and constantly being moved around, and it probably just did not set easy with the bird. So not immediately, but a while passed, and then that bird passed away. And so now we just have one bird, and we're not going to try to buy a new bird again, because at this point, she told the kids and they mourned and whatnot. But while it went by, Ginger Ale was getting more depressed, and someone in the neighborhood finds the exact type of bird right outside a taco restaurant in the middle of winter, flying over to an extremely dirty puddle, and starts drinking it. And so these people were like, "Yeah, this bird's not going to survive unless we do something about it." So they took the bird and just basically went around the neighborhood to see if someone had uh, food or environment to take care of this bird. And word got around that we had food and the equipment to handle a parakeet. It's not a parrot. I don't. I'm not sure if I'm saying the word right, but I swear it's a parakeet, but it's not the one that can talk. So that's the point. We got this bird, and dramatically helped Ginger Ale. And but before then I was trying things like putting in a mirror so the bird could be able to socialize with someone else. And we did try things, but it did dramatically help having a new character into the mix, because they're very social creatures. And then years and years and years went by, and they I mean, they got along well, but I'm not sure how well along they got, if it makes sense. Like, it felt like they were both fighting. They, like, there's times where they were calm and chill with each other, and then there's other days where they were fighting, so I'm not gonna act like things were perfect, but the original one that we had for years on end by at this point, like, I think we had this bird for, uh, 8 years, and we were shocked because, like, parakeets normally live for 10 years, and we got this bird through the rescuing system, so we knew that it'd been around for way longer than it probably should have been alive for. But Ginger Ale got sick, and we did everything we could to try to rescue this bird, and my brother, younger brother, that normally doesn't care that much about animals or much about particular stuff, got close with this bird, and we went to dad and was like, could we take this bird to the vet? I don't want him to die. And dad agreed because, I mean, not only were we all very close and cared about the bird, but also he doesn't, younger brother doesn't ask for much, so he was going to help him out with this thing. And he did get, we followed what the doctor said, and I think it helps the Ginger Ale be able to last a little bit longer. But then there's still clearly one night where he was just going to pass away. And this was in January, so we just barely recently celebrated New Year's. Not the day after, but like a couple days later. And we sang to the bird, we gave bird attention, held it to give it warmth and everything, and we thought that bird was gonna die like at 8 p.m. and it stuck around till 1 a.m. because at 1 a.m. we still were like, okay, we'll do stuff, but at that point we were getting tired and cried so many tears and just was exhausted. And then we let the bird go, Ginger Ale. And it was so tough because we were basically its cheerleaders, and because we were trying so hard that it felt like Ginger Ale was like, I'm gonna try for you guys because I love you. And the moment that we were getting exhausted and couldn't give the same enthusiasm anymore, that's when Ginger Ale went, okay, it's time. And it didn't look pretty. Struggled. And then he went limp and cold, and it was very clear that he passed. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cry. It's just this is like the last remnants of why we took in birds in the first place, and not only that, but I kind of got close with the bird, got close with Ginger Ale when, you could just look up and get the vibe of like, oh, bird's hungry, oh, bird needs new water, oh, Twinkle and Ginger Ale are ready to go to bed, it's time to go to bed, and then they listen, and I don't know, you get close. Then, I think it was like a couple months later, not that far off, Sprite, the other one that we rescued, also died, and Sprite was awake for when Ginger Ale was passing away because we were so loud, Sprite couldn't avoid it, but I think Sprite seeing that one was like, I'm going to go quicker And so Sprite was able to stay around a little bit to hear us, stay in our warmth. But then after, like, it was like, okay, it's time for me to go. And that was tough too, because this was the same, like, all in one year it happened. And years and years of having birds, like, within a week, all the evidence, like the bird food, because we stocked up on a lot of bird food, but we stocked up on bird food on the cage, took out the cage. All the evidence of ever having birds ever was gone. And it's weird because in the beginning of, like, when they recently passed away, my head would automatically turn to the spot where the cage was at in the living room. And later on, I started, like, developing, like, a kissing noise. And, like, basically just having a system of how to talk with kissing noises. So, like, saying bye meant like 2 kisses. Saying hi or I love you meant 1 kiss. And so on. And so because they were able to scrape their beak to make a noise, and I was able, obviously, I'm a human, so I can make noise. And so there are times where I look over assuming that I will hear the birds, and there's times where I think, like, I mishear that same noise, so I turn over to the cage and there's nothing there. I put down the aquarium because there is, like, a section where there's a ton of parakeets, but I'm not really that close to that, so I'll just end it there. Thank you for listening. I dramatically less cats in my life, or less birds than there were cats, but still a huge chunk of my life. So yeah, I thank you for listening. If you want to hear more stories from me or want to see what future stuff I will come up with, please subscribe. If you like this video, please like it, and I'll let you go. Bye.